Hello, this is Willis. Let's make this better. Welcome, and what we're going to do is we're going to replace the fan motor on this external compressor unit of this older Goodman 2-ton AC unit. And I know it's a 2-ton unit because if you look at the service plate, the number, model number, it has 24 in it, and a CK24. And you take that model number and you divide by 12, and that gives you the tonnage unit. So this is a 2-ton unit. And I've seen so many people at the appliance parts, AC parts store, show up with just sort of random parts or just a picture of what they need, and they don't include a picture of their service panel, and as a result, they aren't able to get the right part. So take a picture of your service panel in addition to the picture of the part. So what we're going to need to do is put in the new motor, which I've got a universal motor replacement. Hopefully everything will fit. We've got nut drivers, drill, wrench, and I do own a fan puller, which hopefully we won't have to use. But if we do have to use it, I've got it, which will allow me to pull a stuck fan off the shaft. Got pliers and screwdrivers just in case. So let's get to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the camera on a tripod, and then we're going to basically start working. So safety, I've got knee pads and I've got eye protection, and safety is also cutting the power off the compressor, so I know the power is off now. And now let's take the screws off the top and remove the top and disconnect the old fan. Only 3 screws, putting them on top of the service cutoff. Now we're going to check the top off. I've taken the screws of the service panel off earlier to put in a hard start kit, and that works. There's my hard start kit. All right, so now we're going to check this out. What we're going to do is disconnect the fan from the electrical supplies. It's got a brown wire, a black wire, and a purple wire. And then once we take this off, it becomes much easier to work on. So here's the purple, which goes to the common on the start. This is the common on the start capacitor. Okay, purple. And then got the brown wire, which goes to the starting capacitor, run capacitor actually, I guess, and then a black common, which ties into the contactor common. So by pulling those 3, we should be able to gently remove this from the whole unit, and now we have it. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to swivel it over here to work at ground level. What we're going to do first is try to pull the fan, and that's the sort of hardest thing about this whole process, pulling the fan. Okay, you can see it. If the fan comes off, then we're in easy. Fan blades come off. If it doesn't, then we'll have to work a little harder. Okay, so nut on the fan. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. So need to turn it this way. Okay. Fan blades come straight off. I just slid right on down. Alright, so we have clearly not displeased the gods. Okay, so we set the fan aside. If the fan blades become bent or broken, or they can introduce a wobble, and then your motor's going to not last very long. Service tech who showed me the problem here showed me that there was oil leaking from the bearings, and there's just a little bit of play, not much, but why wait for it to fail? So I'm going to set the fan aside somewhere safe, and now we're going to flip this over and remove the mounting screws from the motor. There are 4 of them. And of course the nut driver doesn't want to reach it, so I have to do this the manual way. Set the screws aside in a place where I can remember them. Lost one of them down here somewhere. Here we are. Now the motor is only held on by one, so I'm going to export the motor from the bottom and get that last bolt off. Actually, there we are. Okay. All right, 4 nuts, 4 washers, 1 motor. Okay, now flipping it on over. And pull the wires out from the bracket. Okay. All right, new motor time. New motor has 4 wires, one of which is a lead for start cap, which is optional. What the start cap does, it'll decrease the starting time by increasing the starting torque, and will save a bit of energy, actually. The highest current draw is when the motor is starting up, and if you can reduce that, you've reduced quite a bit of energy use. But I don't have the 5 microfarad starting cap, so I'm going to go without. So what I'm doing is I'm removing the nuts that are supplied with the motor, and I'm going to have to use these nuts instead of the nuts that came off of the other unit, because these mounting studs are too long to use those cap nuts. Okay, so we're going to run the wires through. And it's got a ground, so we're going to use that down here. Well, it doesn't really do anything because I'm already grounded to the case. Okay, well, that could potentially cause problems, so I'm actually going to remove it, because I wasn't going to tie it to anything else. But if it flops around, it could be a problem. Put the screw back in just in case I have to bond it to the case. Okay, so we've got these wires. This brown one is the starting lead, and the others are run and common and capacitor, run cap. So we're going to run all these wires through the pipe, or at least we're going to try to. Yes, they do go. Now, 2 of them came with quick connect on them, and that's nice, but they make it harder to run through this pipe. I'd rather have the quick connect on than off, so I'm going to accept that and like it. I will like it, damn it. Sorry, using profanity there. I will like it, darn it. Okay, we'll edit that out. So what I'm doing now is I'm feeding the wires through this guide pipe, and the quick connectors are a little hard to get through. And now I'm going to feed the wires that don't have the quick connectors on them, the spade lug connectors. pipe. All right. So now we've got the wires fed through. And we're going to feed them through the bushing here. And now we're going to mount the motor in place. Studs line up. So we've now anchored the gods. And now we're going to mount the motor onto the plates. It's requiring a little bit of force to keep in position. Actually, it's easier if I just rest the motor on its shaft and spin these on. The motor cost $115 at the appliance parts store, and what I had done is I had actually taken a picture of the side panel of the old motor and brought it with me to show to the guy at the service counter, and with that picture he was able to match a generic motor up, and I'm okay with the generic motor. This has a ball bearings on the shaft, so it's better than the sleeve bearings that well, I don't know if those are sleeve bearings, could be ball bearings. Well, in any case, the previous bearings had failed, or the seals had failed because it was leaking oil. Okay, now tighten these puppies down. Not super tight, but tight enough so that they don't vibrate loose. Don't want to strip or snap the bolts. Actually, this will work here this way. Nice. Getting there. Final tightening, make sure everyone's tight enough. And since these are accessible from the top side, it's easy to make sure that they're tight. Come back later, make sure they're tight. Now, what I'm going to do is, just as a style point, I'm going to put these cap nuts on just as a sort of retention device, just in case the other bolts loosen. You've got another set of bolts on top just to hold them in place, and also it keeps me from cutting myself on these relatively coarse screws up here if I'm coming across the top of the unit with something. Alright, next we're going to put the fan on, actual fan on the motor. Now the fan shaft here is longer than the original shaft, but that's okay. That's not an issue. What we need to do is put this on and engage one of the flats, and also make sure that the fan doesn't hit anything. So we're going to actually put it further down so that these wires, which are sort of hanging out here, don't get smacked by the fan there's no possible way that they can get smacked by the fan. Originally the fan was up pretty high, which does make for better efficiency. So the problem is I can't guarantee that these wires won't sag on down and get chopped by the fan. So I'm going to mount the fan here. guy. And engage one of the flats on the shaft. And there's no possible way that the fan blades can touch the wires. Okay. So now we're going to tighten it down in position there. Get a pretty good torque. Not too much, don't want to strip things. Okay, so motor spins very freely. There's a rubber cap that I'm going to push back up onto the motor there to keep things sealed. Now we're going to slide this on top and run the wires through the access hole. That's sometimes the hard part. So here we are, back at the compressor again. So slide a little, make sure that the blades aren't going to run into anything on the inside. And they aren't. Actually, I don't really like that, so I'd rather put the fan blades up higher, I think. Yeah, higher the better, because the fan blades are sort of low. So let's get those wires strapped out of the way. And the way to do that is use a zip tie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a zip tie, which I don't have out on me right here, I don't think. Okay, we're back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a zip tie to zip tie these wires to the top of the grill here. I was thinking of using a whole bunch of sort of jury-rig things like a twist tie, but no, why not do it right? So I'm just going to zip tie this set of wires to the grill here. And just keep them out of the way so that they don't bump into anything. And that way I know that these guys are safe and secure. Okay, so that's one zip tie, and I'm going to put a second zip tie on just because. Tighten these down a little bit so that it doesn't rattle. Okay, looking good. Not too much because don't want the twist ties to get zip ties to get cut by vibration. And then my cutter, which I've put down somewhere safe. Darn it, put it down somewhere safe. Alright, here it is. Alright, now we can lower the fan even more. Alright. A lot of monkeying with fan height, but you might as well get it right. There's no way that these wires can get bumped into by the fan. The fan blade clears the motor face mounting studs. Okay. Okay, now I'm feeling very good about fan height. Okay, let's put this puppy in. We're going to run the wires through the bushing for the into the control unit area. Through. Fourth wire doesn't want to come. It's the one with the spade connector, of course. Okay, here we are. 4 wires through. Gently lower into place. Okay, and you can see that the wires are running into the fan. Okay. Now the wires are not running into the fan. Okay. Tricky part of these grills is making sure that all the wires of the grills are on the inside of the cover. So if you set that down properly from the beginning, then we won't have to monkey with it again. Okay, all in, rotate a little bit. Okay, so electrical connection time. Let's put the spade connectors on. Shark was nice enough to, my repair store was kind enough to supply me with the appropriate spade connectors. So this is yellow, and this goes to the start cap, I think. Okay, yellow. Crimp that on. Get that a really solid squeeze. I'm going to use my linesman's pliers for that. Because I think that's good. Crimp on things. Okay, so that's yellow. And that's, I think that's actually common. Yeah, that's common. So we're going to hook that up to the orange lead here, which was common. Okay. And brown was start, sorry, the run cap. And black was common. So let's get that connector on. This is a 1/6 horse motor, 1/6 horsepower. So the current draw isn't nearly as high as for the compressor. Okay, let's get that cranked on. Feels good. This goes to the black, which is on the contactor. Let's do that yellow crimp again. Just to be absolutely sure. Feels good. And back on the orange or common, cap common. Okay. And this is the start lead, which we're not using, so I'm going to just sort of leave that hanging here. All right, so we've got motor black, it's a black, common. You've got motor yellow, which is the other current side, and then we've got brown, which is start. I mean the run cap. It's the cap. Okay. Let's put the service cover on and see if she runs. Okay, going to reapply the power, and that's good. So now what we're going to do is go to the Sensi app and turn it on. All right, we've turned the thermostat to back to on, so we shall see if she fires up. And she does, and she moves there nicely in the correct direction. Nice. All right, so we're going to put all the screws back on, and that's not very exciting. It was very exciting getting everything installed and in place. Well, thanks for helping me make this better. Till next time.